Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Ah, yes, my friends, conservative, not bitter indeed. I tell you, on a day like this, you need someone to not be bitter because, man, it is intense out there. Trump, Elon, Trump, name-calling, Twitter, Truth Social, all this stuff. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the meatiest part of this yet, which is Elon basically making accusation that Trump is in the Epstein files, seems to insinuate, not just mentioned, casually as someone who knew Jeffrey Epstein, but certainly sounds like he was implying a lot more than that. Anyway, that's where this is headed, my friends. This is, listen, we've been talking about this, going through this, and again, I've also been talking a little bit about the Pacers, which you're going to have to put up with. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to put up with it because I'm on cloud 9 here. Pacers up 1-0 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Anyway, friends, I want to continue this conversation, Trump versus Elon, going through this as fairly and as objectively, with, of course, some of my opinions sprinkled in there as well. Doing that the best we can today. Friends, I want to tell you, too, here off the top, remind you that wherever, you know this, every dollar that you spend, every dollar that I spend is a vote, in a way, for the type of America that we want to live in. You know that people say vote with your dollars. If you don't like the culture that's being funded by the radical left, and you know the people who are on the radical left who are funding this nonsense, you know that it is a necessary thing to stop funding it. And that's unfortunately what we have to deal with today. There are businesses that take the money that we give them for products and services. They then take that to fund candidates and causes with which we vehemently disagree. The time of that happening is over, my friends. That's why we launched Freedom Marketplace. It's an absolutely free directory of businesses that align with your conservative principles and values. These businesses have made a vow, a promise. They will not support leftist candidates and causes, and if they do, they are cut off, my friends, cut off from the directory. So, if you're tired of funding the woke agenda, visit freedommarketplace.net. It is free, it is easy, and it's the sort of thing that's going to help this country win back in the culture war. It's a tiny, a tiny little step. But if we actually are mindful of these things, we can stop being manipulated by the leftists that are running our woke businesses today. Liberty and business for all, my friends, at freedommarketplace.net. All right, when we last left off, with Trump basically saying that Elon was mad because they cut the subsidies for the electric vehicle mandate. Now, in legislation. So then Elon is mad about it. He wanted a kickback, whatever, which is a bold claim. And I left you with asking you, do you think that that's really what happened? Do you think that Trump really thinks this? Do you think Elon really thinks this? Or do you think that that's not the case and that Trump's just going on the attack here against Elon? I said last hour, it may or may not be. I don't know. I don't know sometimes what people think. I just tell you what I think. I actually don't see Elon like this. I don't think Elon is... some people are just so blinded by the rage of billionaires in general and so blinded by rage against Elon. And I'm not here to say Elon... Listen, nobody but Christ himself is the perfect example of the person we should follow. So I'm not saying Elon's perfect, but I do think Elon does some good things. And I think that one of the things he does well is I think he's quite principled. I think he's very principled on some things. So I don't think Elon is upset about what I think Elon's right on this. So here's what Elon tweeted. Oh my goodness. This is at 12:19 yesterday p.m. right after Trump made these comments. Elon says, "Whatever. Keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched. Very unfair. But ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. In the entire history of civilization," this is still Elon's tweet or post on X, "there has never been legislation that he left out that is both big and beautiful." He made these comments earlier last week as well. I played that clip. He said the bill can be big or the bill can be beautiful, but it can't be big and beautiful. He says everybody knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way. That's what Elon says. He says, cut my stuff. I don't care. This isn't what this is about. I was tasked with coming in and doing a certain job, and I feel a little bit abandoned by this. I feel a little bit left out, kind of cut out of the loop. And now you're saying that I'm upset because I had a EV mandate cut. And by the way, you didn't cut the other folks that are getting subsidized, says Elon, which is not fair. But I'm not here to even complain about that. How about we cut the mountain of disgusting pork from this bill? So Trump's still sitting and answering questions here. Again, this is at the New York Times. So here's another piece of the commentary, piece of the quote from Trump when he's talking here about Elon. And Trump has said here that Elon knew every aspect of the bill. And he said that the tech executive did not have a problem with the measure until he left his government post. And then he added that he was very disappointed. Trump was very disappointed in Elon. Here you go.
He became a little bit different, and I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot. He became...
Okay, so now Trump's kind of tightening the screws here. Disappointed in Elon. Elon didn't have a problem with this bill when he was working inside with DOGE. Now he does, says Trump. Elon undoubtedly watching this stuff happen in real time, 12:25, which is roughly the same time that Trump's saying these things in the news conference in the Oval Office. Elon says this, false. This bill was never shown to me even once and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. That brings up the comments made by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said that, well, she's kind of since walked it back. Initially, I thought she said she would not have voted for it had she known about the provision in the bill that prevented states from engaging in legislation that regulated AI for the next 10 years. She said she didn't know that was in the bill. She since has walked that back from what I could ascertain just a little bit. She didn't come out and say that she would not have voted for it. She seems to have stopped short of that now. I just saw another comment or some follow-up on that. So I don't know exactly where she stands, but to the bottom line is that we have a situation here that the bill had a lot of pages and a lot of stuff, and you had it being passed quickly because, again, got to do this now, can't wait. You've heard even Speaker Johnson talk like this. I don't like talk like this, period. I don't care if you're on, quote-unquote, my political side or not. I don't like this. The American people don't like this. The American people don't need this. This is not a good approach. You know, I'm not saying this applies to this particular bill. So please don't put words in my mouth. But it is at least theoretically possible that it's a wonderful bill that still is passed in a way that's less than desirable. And pushing something through, even if it is a perfect bill, doesn't mean that you have to say, I liked that process. We got to get out of this mess, my friends. This is a recipe for bad things. Another way of looking at it is, even if the bill is perfect, let's say it's one big, beautiful bill and it is perfect. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, let's assume that it is. It does not follow that it makes sense to abandon the principles by which a bill is passed, at least in a reasonable sense. It doesn't mean that we just trust people at face value, let them pass it haphazardly, quickly, rush it through. Look, I mean, I'm tired of this stuff. I've watched people say some really dramatic things about how quickly. I've watched people say some really dramatic things about legislation in the past, right? Nancy Pelosi said you have to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill, which is crazy talk. And if people on our side say the same thing, I'm not in favor of it. This is a recipe for disaster. If this is acceptable, if you're setting this example, and there's all this pressure to get it done, well, maybe first you should have started sooner. That's my first comment. My second comment is, did you not know? Did you not know these things were going to be addressed? See, this is where I fault Congress in a major way, because remember, I've been saying for a long time, Trump's the one that's getting stuff done. The administration has done everything up until this point. What's Congress been doing? Well, Todd, they've been working on the one big, beautiful bill. Fine. They should have worked more quickly. I don't know what else they've been spending their time on. How about they get this right? How about they figure this out? How about we not have to rush this? Then you feel a little bit, you just feel a little bit taken advantage of as a voter. Look, maybe this is the right bill. I'm not saying that it is, but don't start pushing us. It's like if you sit down for if you go to a car lot and there's all this pressure to buy the car. Hey man, I like the car. I just need to think about if it's really worth this to me. I'm not going to just sit here with you staring me down. Now, if you have your budget and you know all those details and everything and it makes sense and you can make the decision, that's great. I'm not here to say that decisions can't be made quickly, but I am here to say if you're just operating in a high-pressure environment, you're eventually going to make some bad decisions that are going to be harmful. This is kind of obvious. Elon also went to X to basically, Trump said he would have won Pennsylvania without Elon. Elon does, again, we got egos here. Elon didn't like that. Without me, he tweets, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. That seems to be, at least for the House, a fair assumption. And in the Senate, I don't know if Trump would have lost the election. That may be a step beyond what I think about. I certainly think Elon helped, but I think that might be. I'm not comfortable saying that. I don't know that that's a correct assessment. And then he adds, "Such ingratitude." Oh my goodness. And then of course, Elon starts, which I read some of those tweets that he was reposting from President Trump. Elon reposted a tweet from the president back in 2013, I believe it was. Trump tweeted, "I can't believe Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I'm embarrassed." Elon retweeted that yesterday and said, "Wise words." Elon retweeted something that Trump posted in July of 2012. No member of Congress should be eligible. We read this one earlier too, for re-election. If our country's budget is not balanced, deficits are not allowed. Elon reposted 100%. That's exactly right. That's what we should be doing. That was, again, a post from Trump from 13 years ago. No member of Congress should be. He also retweeted that again and said, I couldn't agree more. So then Elon goes to X and has a poll. Is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? Isn't it interesting? I've said on this program for a long time that basically a version of this. I say that 80% of this country would agree with 80% of the things that I say. I'm a conservative. I'm a limited government guy. Definitely have a lot of libertarian in me. Not completely libertarian, but limited government, liberty guy, right? Value of the individual, small government, small federal government in particular. Elon says maybe it's time for a new party. He's asking people to respond to his poll. Can we find the new party that represents the 80% of the people in the middle? Now, so that's where Elon left off. Trump gets out of his press conference, and Trump then goes to, here we go. Trump then takes to Truth Social, which is now we got Elon using his platform X. Now we've got Trump using his platform Truth Social. This was at 2:37 yesterday afternoon. Elon was, quote, wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy, Trump says. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So now we got this going on. We got Trump. This is just rich with so much. You now have Trump posting his stuff on his own platform, Truth Social. Elon posting on his own platform, X. People that are then posting Trump's Truth Social tweets to X, where Elon sees them. So Elon responds on his platform on X. Such an obvious lie to that post I just read of Trump's, where he said that Elon was wearing thin and that he asked him to leave, and Elon got mad when he took away the EV mandates. Elon says such an obvious lie. So sad. Then we have Elon on X saying this. And this is where this has been ratcheted up. This went from, a little bit uncomfortable, maybe a little bit disappointing, discouraging for people. Look like guys who didn't agree, who there were tension between, but, nothing happened. And then it's turned into this. And Elon is about to start the bar fight and leave the bar. About 20 minutes later, 10 after 3 yesterday afternoon, Elon goes to X and he says this. I don't know if he consulted his attorney during this time. He maybe should have. Because here's what he texts, or why do I keep saying it? Tweets. It's not even tweets. It's post on X. It's always going to be tweets to me. Here's what he posts. Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump, he's actually tagged him on his Twitter handle, Real Donald Trump, is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Mark this post for the future. 10 minutes later, he posts, the truth will come out. Oh my heavens, this thing. Listen. The insinuation here is that Trump is on the Epstein client list, which would basically mean, if this is true, I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying if it is true, would implicate the President of the United States in engaging in sexual activity with the equivalent of child sex slaves in Jeffrey Epstein's morally bankrupt, just filthy, disgusting sex ring that he was running and operating. Now, it's one thing to have your name mentioned in the files just in the manner of, your name came up through associations. It's another thing to be on the list. And this seems to say Well, again, it seems to suggest that the president's on the actual client list. So they talking about, I mean, this is a bomb that he's dropped. Now, some people would say, well, Elon was in the government. He may have access to things. Other people say Elon's just trying to basically stir up trouble and amplify this fight even more. I don't know, but these are enormous allegations. But notice, again, there's probably enough, there may be enough wiggle room to where, this could be determined that he's not legally liable for this, because we may be staring down the nose, it's conceivable anyway, of the largest defamation suit in the history of mankind if this is, to be determined that this is a comment about Trump being in the Epstein client files, and then if he's not, then that's a big problem for Elon. But again, maybe he's kept it vague enough to where he's not making an outright claim here. I don't know. It's just mind-blowing. I remember when I saw that yesterday, I messaged a couple of people and said, are you following this? My goodness, this has erupted. I just talked about yesterday. I talked about how this hadn't had any of this stuff yet. I didn't candidly think we were going to go here. I thought Trump was handling this kind of appropriately. Elon wasn't saying anything. I didn't really expect Elon to do this, but I think Elon's ticked off. I think Elon feels like all the work he put into this he's been betrayed. That's what I think. And I can see his perspective. I agree with that in part. I don't know to what percentage, but I definitely think he's playing the wrong game here. Anyway, Trump goes back to Truth Social yesterday afternoon, 4:06 p.m. Says this: I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's a record cut in expenses, $1.6 trillion, and the biggest tax cut ever given. If this bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase. That's because of the ending of the previous Trump taxes, the tax cut, I should say, from 2017. And things Trump posts here are things far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm just here to fix it. This puts our country on a path of greatness. Make America great again. I got to take a break here, my friends. Much more to get into. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I got to tell you, I am, between the excitement of the Pacers series, the craziness of what's going on here between Trump and Elon, the seriousness of the things happening in our country, the passage of legislation, just everything else that's going on. I am in a little bit of a unique mood here today, but it's a wild ride, and we're still not through the entire thing between Elon and Trump. I'm looking here at an article at the New York Times, which is kind of summarizing this. I've played some sound bites. I've read some posts on X. I've read some posts on Truth Social. This thing's been ratcheted up to as high as it could go, pretty much. I don't want to say that. We've got a little bit of room to go, but we're quickly reaching that point. So before I get into this segment, my friends, and continue our conversations, I want to talk with you a little bit about your future. And I know, listen, we all want to be around. I've got, the more I've read the Bible, the more I look forward to my eternal home with Christ in heaven. And I got to be honest, as a younger guy, I always look forward to that, but there's things in life I wanted to experience too. That's maybe very selfish and short-sighted. I'm just being candid with you as I've matured. But the older I get, the more I think about that is really where this all leads us, to those of us who knows Christ, to an eternity with him in heaven. But at the same time, we have work here to do, right? There are things here to do, And we want to be around and be healthy as long as we can. We want to see our kids grow up. We want to see our grandkids, all of that stuff. We want to stay in the fight to save this country. And a big part of that, my friends, is staying healthy. You cannot control everything in this life. You can't control everything that happens to you. You can control how you respond, but you can also do things that will minimize your risk of having some of these other problems take root. That's why I take Solti. It's an all-natural, clinically proven dietary supplement that lowers cholesterol safely. No prescriptions, no doctor visits, no hassles, just 2 Solti soft gels a day. That's all it takes. And you're taking care of your heart. Friends, as I mentioned, I've been using it myself, and I would recommend that you at least consider doing the same. So we need you in this fight for your family, for your faith, for this country. Go to Soltea.com, SOLTEA, use promo code Todd. You're going to save 50% off the product. It's the first 3-month supply and get free shipping. It's a great deal. It's very inexpensive. Soltea.com, SOLTEA, promo code Todd. Stay strong, stay healthy, and stay in the fight, my friends. All right. So when we last left off, let's see, Elon had at least insinuated that Trump was going to be on the Epstein client list. At least that's certainly an interpretation, saying he was at least in the Epstein files, and then went as far to say is save this post, come back to this for later. Then Trump's out there posting. Trump, I don't know if Trump responded to this. I haven't seen it. There's a lot of messages and so forth to go back and forth here. But Elon says, in light of the president's statement, which again, Trump's statement on Truth Social, well, there's another post that I didn't read yet. How did I miss that one? Maybe I did and I'm just forgetting it. But Trump posted on Truth Social, the easiest way to save money in our budget, maybe I did read this, I've read so many, is billions and billions of dollars to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that that Biden didn't do it. I did read this. So Elon sees that, and Elon says, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. So now we have Trump threatening to terminate contracts. Elon says, I'll do you one better. How about we just stop, we'll decommission the Dragon spacecraft that we're, working with the government on, and we'll just save you the problems. So this is now we're to the level of, government contracts, what's happening in space. I mean, wild, wild rides here. Then there is a person on X named Ian Miles Cheng. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. He's a conservative. I don't know how I would define him, but someone who's conservative, I would say. I don't follow him, or I don't really follow much on X, but I'm familiar with this individual, and he's usually someone who says things that I agree with, or at least can see the perspective of. He posts this on X: President versus Elon. Who wins? My money's on Elon, is what he writes. Trump should be impeached, and J.D. Vance should replace him. So you talk about escalating quickly. We're now, and then Elon retweets it, reposts it on X, and says, yes. So now we have, I mean, it's a lot. He continued responding. We've got impeachment talks. We've got the cancellation of a program that Musk's SpaceX has been working with the federal government on. I mean, this is big time. The accusation that Trump is in the Epstein files at minimum, and potentially, according to Elon's comments, maybe even insinuating that he was in the Epstein client list. So then Elon starts retweeting people. So people, for example, that post stuff like this: can I finally say that Trump's tariffs are super stupid? Elon says the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of the year. So then we've got we've got the tweets going late into the night as I was watching the Pacers game. Elon apparently wasn't. I don't know. There's another guy, Bill Ackman on X, who says, I support Trump and Musk, and they should make peace for the benefit of our great country. We are much stronger together than apart. Then Elon replies to that comment or to that post saying, you're not wrong. So we're all over the place here. It's intense. It is absolutely, positively intense. And there's a lot to take in there. I just wanted to kind of work through this today because that is, I mean, in one sense, I don't know that we could ever say we're surprised that we're here when it involves Trump, especially these spats like this. I did think that we were going to get by without this getting super intense. I was clearly wrong. I don't know what happens from here. It's hard. How do you come back from saying President Trump is in the Epstein files? I suppose you could say, well, he was, mentioned because of just through the course of the investigation. There was a connection there, and that's how his name came up, but he wasn't in the client list. I mean, how do you come back from this? This could turn into, as I mentioned earlier, the largest defamation lawsuit in the history of lawsuits. I mean, this has that potential. I don't know. Trump can sometimes surprise us. He does occasionally surprise us. But one thing that's been consistent is if you're going to go after Trump, he is going to punch back. I mean, there really is no example that I can think of where that's not how he's responded. Now, once he's won the battle, right? Once he, in the case of going through the primary process, once he became the nominee, once a person dropped out of the race, whatever, he would say very nice things and try to make peace. And I think that that's a part of Trump in the vast majority of cases. There are some examples where he continues to go after people, including Biden, the Biden crime family. Even with Hillary, he was a little bit kind with some of the things that he said to her when she conceded in 2016. And I don't think Trump gets enough credit for that, but he also goes scorched earth on people in the meantime. So I don't know where this ends up. That last post in particular, I mean, it kind of summarizes what I hope for. I hope there's a way for these two to get back together here and work together, or at least not be mortal enemies, not be opposing each other. Again, I do understand why Elon's opposing this. I just mean opposing one another to the point of, really saying some really big things. I mean, Trump's implying that Elon's only wanting the kickback. And Elon's implying that Trump's involved potentially, allegedly, with Epstein and the client list. I mean, it's wild stuff. But again, it's also just what we become accustomed to. None of this is surprising to me, I guess. I didn't think we would end up here, but at the same time, I can't say that I'm surprised that we did. Timeout's in order, my friends. Sit tight. You are listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I've said about as much about that as I want to say right now. We'll see what else develops. I hope I didn't miss something. And there's a lot to stay on top of here, especially when it comes to these messages and different platforms and everything else. But that's where I'm going to cut this off for now, which I'm sure that this will be something we talk about again. But I wanted to make sure that here in this, well, I always make a point. For those of you who have listened to this program, we've almost been in producing this show for 10 years. We launched the program August 10th, 2015. So almost 10 years. We'll be celebrating our 10th year here in a couple of months. And you'll notice, if you've listened to this program, there are certain days, certain episodes of the program are certain episodes that we make sure we talk about things. Some of those days would include carrying on the tradition of Rush Limbaugh with the true story of the true story of Thanksgiving. We talk about Christmas. We talk about Easter. We talk about some things around the 4th of July. And I always try to mention what happened on this day. Now, this is a date that, to history buffs is an obvious date, but for many Americans, it's just a date on the calendar that we just waltz past. But it was on this date, June 6th, 1944, that we launched the American military operation known as, D-Day. Known now as D-Day. When our men stormed the beaches, Normandy, Omaha Beach, and began the process of liberating Europe. And you've probably seen some of the videos. You may have read some of the books. You may have watched some of the documentaries on this day, but it's absolutely incredible. And tremendous casualties taken, just an absolutely just terrible day. Now, it gave us a foothold. We accomplished the mission. It was the beginning of the end of Hitler's, basically his fall. Now, Hitler was fighting another front with the Russians in the east. But now that the Allies had landed, had gotten a foothold in Normandy, they began the process of pushing back and fighting back against the Germans, the Axis powers, starting on that day, June 6th, 1944. And I was born in 1977. And of course, as a kid, growing up in the 80s, the 1940s seemed like just forever ago. But as I think back to that, it's as far from, say, we're as far from 1984. We're a little further from 1984 than 1984 was from D-Day. And that's hard for my mind to candidly wrap around. And there were people that we knew of, people who fought in World War II, people who are grandfathers and great uncles. I had what would he be? I think I always called him my great uncle, but I don't know if that's technically what his relation was to me, but he fought in the European theater. In fact, he was a collector of old clocks. His name was Bob. Collector of old clocks, some of which he had somehow gotten from his time in Europe. And so we all knew, well, I shouldn't say we all, but many of us knew some of these folks that fought in Normandy in particular, or in the European theater or the Pacific theater, but in that time frame. But there's fewer and fewer of them. Because they're getting older and they're passing away. Of course, we lost a tremendous number of people that day as well. But the courage and the courage and the strength necessary to do what needed to be done. I think we often, especially the further we get past those times. My next door neighbor, when I was a little kid, he was in World War II. He was in a tank. I think he was the driver. I truly don't know. But I remember, I was just recalling some of these stories with my mom the other day. And we're losing that generation. They're aging and they're passing away. And a lot of this history, if we're losing those who experienced it. But that generation, and not just that generation, but those that have gone before us, I don't think we pause and give the folks that went before us enough credit. This country, again, is far from perfect, but this country in many, many cases, was on the right side of very challenging times or complicated circumstances, and this country came out, helped the world in some cases come out on the right side of history. And I don't think we pay enough attention or give enough credit to those that have gone before us, because we all benefit from that. We all benefit from the work and devotion and bravery and fight of those who went before us in building this great nation and for fighting for freedom around the globe. And I just want to appreciate those men and keep their memory alive on this June 6, 1944, Remembrance of D-Day. Gotta go, SDG.